Writer's Way podcast is now streaming. In this episode, our host, Mia Thompson, welcomes a very special guest, author Greer Firestone. Greer is the founder of Heart in the Game Foundation, a Broadway producer and playwright, and a historian of the Romanov dynasty. Today, we're featuring his remarkable book, Alexei and the Mad Monk Rasputin. Let's dive in and explore the story behind this fascinating novel.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi there.
This is Mia Thompson. Welcome to Writer's Way Solution. Greer, okay. So why don't you introduce yourself here right now?
Greer Firestone. I'm not only a novelist, an historical novelist, but I'm also a playwright. I've written 3 Broadway-style shows. I've been a theater columnist for 40 years, and I also run a non-profit called Heart in the Game, and we give EKG screenings to Delaware students, and during the events we train in CPR and AED.
Mm-hmm.
That's a thumbnail sketch.
Okay, so now let me start with the first question here. What inspired you to write Alexei and the Mad Monk Rasputin, and how did you become interested in Rasputin and Alexei?
Yeah, I was a Russian history minor at the University of Delaware, and the first book that we were given to read was Robert Massey's Nicholas and Alexandra, and the whole thing with regard to Alexei and Rasputin's influence, that the Nicholas and Alexander presided over the end of the 300-year Romanov dynasty. So, and also the boy, Alexei, who was the heir, had hemophilia. Well, it came out in the book, and this is one of the fascinating things, I think, is that there was no hemoglobin at the time. So the Russian populace thought that the Tsar was descended from God. So therefore, Nicholas and Alexandra and the court could not tell the populace, the 90 million people that populated Russia at that time, that the boy had a human disease that was incurable. So what happened was that the greatest secret of the age became the greatest tragedy of the age when Lenin took over in 1917, and in 1918, he assassinated the entire family.
Mm-hmm. Well, how much of the story is rooted in historical fact, and how much creative freedom did you take in developing the characters and plot?
When one writes in historical fiction, one puts people in there that are fictional, but it's incredibly important to have all the historical facts completely true and well researched. So this was the case here with me. I think in my bibliography there's probably about 19 books that I read about the Romanovs and Rasputin and Atma. Atma was the four sisters, Olga, Titania, Marie, and Anastasia. So, but I put in a protagonist who was the storyteller, and his name was Sergei Protopopov. I mean, I made this name up. So I follow Sergei's lead, but everything that happens within the book is absolutely historically correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, balancing, fact and fiction requires, a careful consideration, but it allows for creative storytelling that, resonate emotionally. And this approach, it would teach readers to appreciate both documented history and the imaginative effort required to fill in the gaps with empathy and insight. So, aside from that, Rasputin remains a controversial and enigmatic figure. Now, how did you approach portraying his character in a balanced and nuanced way?
Well, it wasn't difficult. I mean, he was a mystic. He considered himself what is called a starets, a holy man. And this was the age in the late 1800s, where there was mysticism, there was fever with regard to not fever, there was interest in the occult. So Rasputin passed himself off as a starets, a man who had supernatural powers. And the Tsarina was absolutely obsessed with keeping the heir alive, Alexei alive. So she had heard about this Siberian peasant from other people or other ladies of the court, brought him here, and he actually, during the hemophiliac attacks, he actually did save him to some extent. I mean, he mesmerized him, maybe he hypnotized him. But on the other hand, they thought he was the godsend. I mean, and so he gained so much power because he was the one man who could save the heir and save the dynasty. On the other hand, Rasputin was a sex maniac, a debaucher, a drunkard, and an incredible manipulator. So the ministers and all the government officials and all the other and the populace around the world, around Russia, could not understand how this man was given so much influence. Because again, it was the greatest secret of the age, keeping that secret that the boy had a human frail disease. So, and the other, allied with that was that Nicholas was absolutely inept as a czar. He should have been an accountant or a gardener. He had no clue about how to run a country. Also, he was an absolute autocrat. He felt that his decisions were the best for the country, and turned out they were the worst for the country. So, knowing this and having this much power, Rasputin took advantage of it, and he would go up to the royal ladies of the court, and not only those ladies, but every other lady he wanted to, and start unbuttoning their bodices. And he would say, I will absolve you of all your sins if you come to bed with me. He was well known for that, and had women all the time, because they were thinking, he could absolve me of all the bad things that I do. And so, and he also was a drunkard. I mean, so he has, and he looked like crap. I mean, he looked like he just came from a Siberian barn. The food from the last meal was always on his beard, and he smelled. But the one thing that he had were these deep-set phosphorescent eyes, and he had incredible charisma. So he mesmerized people. He brought people into his power and used them. So, and anyone who didn't, and especially during World War I, Nicholas, another bad mistake, Nicholas went to the front to take over for the war. Stupid thing to do, because if the war went south, south in other words bad, he was blamed for it. Well, he had no military background anyway, but he did it. And so when he left, it was basically Rasputin and Alexander who ran the country. And if someone if Rasputin didn't like someone, he was shown the door or exiled or, in fact, assassinated. So he had incredible power. And and people love to hear about the assassination of Rasputin, and I go into depth with that, too. So there were T-shirts made, for example. I have one that there's a Rasputin face, his face on the T-shirt, but underneath it says, "Never say die, never say die, never say die," because obviously he had, the myth is that he had, it took a long time for him to die, and there's a lot of mythology around that.
Yeah. Well, from your answer, Greer, I can see it that human complexity should be embraced rather than simplified. Like, portraying Rasputin as both a compassionate healer and a controversial figure teaches us, that real people are somewhat multi-dimensional, and not merely
Yeah.
heroes or villains. And this lesson could,
Yeah.
encourage readers to withhold judgment and seek a fuller understanding of people's motivations and actions. So there is
Yeah,
truly, yeah, go ahead.
Well, the thing is, you said the word empathy. There is very little known about Alexei because he was born in 1904 and he was killed in 1918. Therefore, he was only 14. And so, what this fictional character, Sergei, befriends Alexei. He's brought to the palace of Tsarskoye Selo in St. Petersburg. So I make a relationship between my fictional character and Alexei, and I try to give people an understanding about the travails the boy went through when he had the hemophiliac attacks, and I created kind of a personality for Alexei that was fictional, but it's like when my kids were 14, or growing up, I used those examples about giving some real life humanity to Alexei.
Mm-hmm. Now, aside from that, Greer, what kind of research did you conduct to, accurately depict the historical context of Imperial Russia and the Romanov family?
Yeah, well, I just refer to my bibliography. One, of course, Nicholas Alexander by Robert Massey. That was actually published in about 1965, I think. Another book was, and I used diaries a lot too. Diaries of people who had lived with them, and that knew the royal family. The diary of Olga Romanov, for example. No, Olga was actually one of the daughters. Another one was Russia's Last Romanovs, in their own words. The Life and Tragedy of Alexander Fedorova, Tsarevich. I have the man who killed, for example, the man who killed Rasputin. That's actually, that man, one of the conspirators was Felix Yusupov. The Russian Revolution, of course, the Rasputin File. These are books that I'm just reading off now. The Last Tsar, Echoes of a Native Land, and also there are many YouTube vids that I used that were absolutely done by, college professors. So I used some of those, the words of the college professors in the book. So it was all very intensely researched.
Yeah, well, I believe as well that, a thorough research is truly crucial when portraying, historical events. Now, how did you develop the dynamic between Alexei and Rasputin, and what makes their relationship so compelling?
Well, the thing is, when Alexei had these hemophiliac attacks, what happens is, and it can happen anytime, he could brush against the table, and that hemophiliac's veins are very, very brittle. Mm-hmm. So any abrupt hit, a fall off a bike, could create a hemophiliac attack. And for example, if it was in the knee, the veins would break, and then blood would pool, pool in the knee area, and swell and swell and swell, and it was excruciating pain. All right. So now Alexander finds this holy man, Father Gregory, brings him in, and of all things, Rasputin had this mesmerizing spell over Alexei. And one of the things I say, and I'll get to your point in a minute, one of the things that I point out is that when one goes through hemophiliac attacks, if you had one or I had one, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die, because I remember how much it hurt last time, and I'm on the verge of dying. My blood pressure is sky high because I'm so concerned. And what upset about, and I know the pain is going to be excruciating too, Rasputin had the ability to calm Alexei. And so when Alexei had an attack and Rasputin was called in, it gave him calmness, because he knew that Rasputin was there to save him. So I developed that relationship a lot in the book so that people know that there was this side of Rasputin that had some healing capability to save the heir. Does that answer your question?
Yes, exactly. Now, did you discover like any surprising facts or stories during your research that changed how you viewed Rasputin or the Romanovs?
Well, the only thing that was surprising to me that I didn't know kind of beforehand was that Rasputin had this cult, and it was called Khlysty, Khlyssti, and they actually, and when word got out about this, the Romanovs were a little upset about this, but he would bring in groups of men and women, and they would have drugs, and they'd all get naked, and they'd all be having sex, and so that I do bring that up in one of the chapters. I mean, the guy was really out there, and but he had this nature, this power when he was in front of the Tsarevich, Alexei, to calm him, and so Alexander looked past that. She didn't care about all this other drinking and debauchery. All she cared about was saving her son.
Okay. Now, I can see that, research could challenge our assumptions and broaden our perspectives. Like discovering unexpected truths about, Rasputin and the Romanovs highlight the importance of approaching history with an open mind. And it would teach us not to tightly to, preconceived notions and to remain willing, to revise their opinions when presented with new evidence, right?
Well, yeah. The thing is about history. If we all learned the lessons of our forefathers, right now we wouldn't be in the situation we're in. For example, here's an example. I just taught a course on Alexei and Rasputin at what is called the Academy of Lifelong Learning. It's retired people that have all this. I mean, I'm a writer, so I did Alexei, and I also did another educational thing on Judy Garland because I know a lot about her. But there's hundreds of people in this organization, and they're retirees, and they could be chemical engineers, they could be lawyers, whatever it is. They bring that particular talent and their career education, and people learn from it, right? So anyway, the last time that we were together, we did a 5-week course, and it came up that people wanted to know, okay, what happened after the revolution, right at the revolution, when Lenin took over, and then when Stalin took over, right? Because and it was good for me to kind of address that too, because the Russian Revolution shook the world. I mean, it changed. It began communism. I mean, revolution stopped. Lenin took over. The Soviets took over, and it changed the context of the world. So we talked about Stalin and all the attributes of that he only had people in his administration, shall we say, who were absolute loyalists, number one. Number two, that he considered himself a cult figure. And number three, that he suppressed and exiled or murdered people that he didn't like, that for whatever reason. So I said to people in the class, look at these three attributes of Stalin and relate them to Donald Trump, right? So, it's tough because Trump is as authoritarian as Stalin is. So the idea about keeping an open mind with history, if people that start a venture or they think they're going to be doing a risk, take a look at what happened in history with other people doing the same thing. So yeah, I mean, I've always kept an open mind as to what can happen and what may happen, and that's the fun thing about writing, frankly.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Now, how do you think readers today can relate to the themes of power, faith, and loyalty explored in the book?
Well, I would hope that my readers that think exactly that they can relate to these things. Because I make the point about power very explicit. Faith, faith with regard to. Do you mean religious faith, or what kind of faith do you mean?
Yeah, somewhat like a belief, relationship.
Oh, and it's strong beliefs in, okay. These things are brought out by almost subjectivity. I mean, the thing is, I think I did a half-decent job writing about the relationships between all the characters and making them strong and making them loyal to one another. So, and then, of course, we talk about power all the time because Nicholas was an autocrat and he demanded absolute power, and the people fought that, and therefore the Romanov dynasty was ended after 300 years. So those themes are always in historical novels, and they certainly were in my book.
Okay. Now, I can see this, themes like power, faith, and loyalty are timeless and universal. Even though the setting is imperial Russia, these themes resonate today, like reminding readers to reflect on their own relationships and beliefs. And, understanding that human struggles remain consistent across time, it would help readers as well to connect with, historical narratives on a personal level. Now, in writing your book, Greer, what was the most challenging part, of writing this historical novel, and how did you overcome it?
Well, as far as the fictional protagonist, Sergei, I took a look at the chronology of the time. So, in other words, I followed chronology and then put Sergei in that chronology, the historical chronology that was actually the truth. So we follow Sergei through all the events of Alexei's life, of Nicholas and Alexander's life, and the girl's life. So it actually wasn't that challenging because I tried to put my mind in. I let Sergei give me the path forward, relating to the chronology, relating to the history. And so I would just ask the little Sergei in my mind, what would we be doing now? And how would we, piece this all together and also make it completely historically correct?
Well, I can say that challenges are, an inherent part of creativity, right? And perseverance. Go ahead.
Well, but the challenge was, it was fun. I mean, it was fun trying to make it all work with the fictional character and the real history. So, once in a while there'd be maybe writer's block. Oh my God, how am I going to fix that one up? But generally it flowed pretty well. And so, and as far as the historical challenge, I did enough historical research to feel very confident in how I was telling the tale.
Yeah, so, and I can see it that, your persistence, it would really shape a successful outcome in which you were able to publish this book, overcoming the challenges. It could foster resilience and dedication as well. Now, aside from that, Greer, how have readers responded to the book so far? And, has there any feedback particularly stood out to you or somewhat, surprised you?
Well, there hasn't really been negative stuff, but the positive side is this. the boy had an incurable disease. The book was sold in middle school because I have some sex in there. I didn't want it in elementary schools, but it made the kids there understand that, somebody with a disability could still, try to live a life. And so I had good feedback from middle school history teachers and English teachers because their students could relate to the two people the Sergei, on the one hand, the fictional guy, but the way that I wrote it, they could relate also to Alexei, who was basically in a glass bubble. I mean, he was shielded from the rest of society because the incredible wealth and that they had versus the 98% of the country was. Well, I think 96% of the country was illiterate. I mean, and they lived in hovels. So there was that whole disparity between how the royals lived and how the rest of the country lived in late 1800s and early 1900s, late 18, early 1900s. So, and people enjoyed I spent a lot of time on talking about all the glories of the Tsar, the Fabergé eggs, and all the trappings of being a royal family. But then also I talked about the other people who were going through strikes. There was famine in the land, illiteracy, and it was the biggest country in the world before the revolution. It spanned 12 time zones. It went from the Baltic to the Pacific. It was an incredible land. But so there's a lot of, there's a chock full of history. And it was a tumultuous time because the good feedback I get is that because it was such a shock to the world when the revolution happened and Lenin came in and then it went from Russia to the Union of Soviet Republic, the USSR. It's chock full of history, and I got real good response on that from then, let's say middle and upper school, but then adults who read the book too.
Okay, and I believe as well, Greer, that feedback, is a valuable tool for reflection and growth. And by, listening to your target audience or to your readers, you could gain insight into how their work, your work could resonate with diverse audiences, and it could,
I think so, yeah.
Embracing their feedbacks, it could help you evolve as well, making your future work even more impactful and meaningful. Now, do you have plans for future books exploring, similar historical themes or characters?
Well, no. The only thing I'm doing now, Mia, is I'm writing another Broadway type show, number one, but I'm actually going to write a memoir, but it's going to be, shall we say, enhanced. Now, I'm 78, and I've lived through some interesting times. I went to Woodstock. I took part in the anti-Vietnam War mobilization. Right? I hitchhiked around Europe in 1970 for 6 months with just Arthur. The book back then was called Arthur Frommer's Europe on $5 a day. Literally, that's what it was called. And so I just hitchhiked in 9 countries. So I had those adventures. I kept diary. And then when I got back from then, I'd had a real big theatrical experiences as a child in high school and college. So I went to New York to try to become an actor. I tried out at the first show, Heir, the hippie show. And there was all kinds of social things that happened during my life. So that's what I've got 270 pages of research already done in the years that I'm living, that I've had lived and living now. So it won't be historical per se, but it'll touch on social issues and other issues as we went forward in a nation from, I'm going to start when I'm about high school or so, and then on to now. So, I mean, all the different changes in society I'm going to be speaking about, because I lived through a lot of them.
Okay. Now, where do your readers could connect with you? Like, do you have a website for your book or any social media platform?
Well, I have a couple things. The book's available on Amazon and through Ingram Spark. But years ago, I created a Facebook group called Alexei Romanov, The Last Tsarevich. And I've never solicited member one. I have over 5,000 people who were part of this group, right? And they mainly put in pictures. But what happened was this. The Tsar himself, Nicholas, had photographers follow the family all the time. And so there's the treasure trove of photos. Well, several people on my site, the Alexei Romanov site, colorized these photos. And they're absolutely breathtaking. I mean, it's like they were, shot yesterday. So I get a lot of, and I've sold a lot of books through that site simply because, it's a real dedicated group of Russophiles and Romanov historical lovers. So I don't have a website per se for it. And the other thing is, Amia, that on the back of my book is a QR code. Now, the QR code takes you to a website that I have through another venture. And then I think there's about 145 colorized photos that are available if someone just clicks on the QR code. I'm not helped to sell the book to.
Okay. No, thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much, Greer, for having this interview with us. I can see it that, spreading the lessons of your book, Alexei in the Mad Max Rasputin, is essential, because it offers a timeless insight into power, loyalty, and human complexity, and also the consequences of blind faith, issues that are still relevant in today's world. Like the story of the Romanov family's downfall serves as a cautionary tale about, the dangers of isolation, detachment from reality, placing unwavering trust in a single figure, whether in leadership or personal life. And in an era marked by, social change and widespread misinformation, this book would remind us to critically evaluate those in power, seek a balanced perspective, and recognize the humanity behind even the most controversial figures. The resilient spirit of young Alexei amidst his struggles inspire us to confront personal challenges with courage and determination. And by sharing his story, we encourage modern readers to learn from the past, embrace empathy, and remain vigilant against repeating the mistakes that led to, the downfall of the one history's most powerful dynasties. Again, Greer, thank you so much for participating in this interview. Now, this will be posted or uploaded in podcast, in which it will be available in Spotify. Okay.
Wow.
So, I will just keep you posted for any updates and feedback, So, just keep in touch as well, okay?
Thanks very much, Mia. You're very charming.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you so much, and you take care, okay?
Bye now.